Boom! What's up, Waves Capital? It's Royce Jacob, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to talk to you about why I believe there is a hype cycle coming for the artificial intelligence sector of the stock market. I also want to talk to you about my number one favorite stock to play this potential hype cycle in the case that you agree with me here today. I'll also share with you my number one call options position that I'm currently holding on this stock because, as you know, my money is always where my mouth is. And I am proud to say that so far, this position, as we've had it over the past month, has done us over at Waves Capital very well. So we'll cover that more at the end of the video. All right. But first things first, what is a hype cycle? And without going into too much detail, I figured it would be easiest just to share a simple chart with you here. Before we discuss the phases of this chart, which we have covered here on the channel before, I will say when you think hype cycle, just think, like crypto and NFTs in 2021. That's kind of the easiest and most recent example of a textbook hype cycle. So this is Gartner's hype cycle. The first phase of this cycle is technology trigger. This is where the nerds get in. This is where the early adopters come in. And that is why, there's the nerd emoji right there. After that, when the general public hops on the bandwagon, that's when we get that parabolic move up, which leads to all these, probably emojis that you never want to associate yourself with as an investor. Get the starry eyes, hard eyes, just money signs. That's when the greed really kicks in, and that's when we go parabolic and reach some of those highs that are really hard to justify. Okay, obviously after that comes the crash, comes the worry, comes the sorrow, the despair. Of course, up here is the peak of inflated expectations. Once we start selling off, you get to the bottom, you get to that capitulation phase. That is the trough of disillusionment. And then you get the bounce back where there's the slope of enlightenment. That's where, some of the a mixture of early adopters, mostly early adopters, and some of the people who got in up here who really do believe in the underlying technology of the hype cycle itself are beginning to think, what, I'm a buyer at these levels. And really, this is kind of what we're seeing in crypto right now as I'm recording this in mid-January. And then, you get that plateau, the plateau of productivity, where we find that fair valuation. And again, you can still highly value some of these sectors, even crypto right now, because there's so much growth ahead of it. But, the plateau of productivity is where you find that middle ground between the trough of disillusionment and the peak of inflated expectations. Okay, so I do recommend you guys go, search Gartner's hype cycle. There is a full breakdown on their website, but I figured it would be easiest and, most digestible, funnest as well. Just take a quick look at this and go over that. So that's what a hype cycle is. Now, before we get into this Microsoft news, I do quickly want to go over the rest of the video and then we'll dive into each piece bit by bit. Okay, so this is the first thing we'll discuss. And the reason I want to discuss Microsoft's potential investment in, it's pretty much a secured investment at this point, I should say. But Microsoft's investment into OpenAI, which is the creator of ChatGPT and the DALL-E 2. So the generative text. I'm sure you guys have heard of ChatGPT at this point in time. We will go over what this is more, but I'm sure you guys have heard about it. There's a lot of hype, and that's why they use in the title of this article, creator of buzzy AI tool ChatGPT. And of course, DALL-E 2, which is the generative artwork project or a program that OpenAI offers as well. Okay, so we'll talk about this. This is very big for the sector, of course. Similar to how recently the space sector has absolutely blown up in the wake of SpaceX and Starlink raising private rounds. It's very likely the same thing happens to AI because a lot of time the venture space, there we go, the venture capital realms really dictate what's to come in the public markets. Okay, and of course, after this, we will discuss OpenAI a bit. I want to talk about what OpenAI is, and that's, again, another reason I didn't really want to ramble too much about ChatGPT and DALL-E 2 there. But we will quickly go over what OpenAI is, why this is important. Sorry, you guys, there's a lot of just letters in here, so we'll be stumbling a bit. But what OpenAI is, and then back to kind of the venture capitalist argument. Really some of the figureheads, in my mind at least, propelling this sector forward. And You know, you guys, a lot of the time, these big names, I'm sure you've heard of them before. I have mentioned them on the channel. The All In podcast, this is a group of, you know, a few billionaires and one probably 100 millionaire, centimillionaire. These guys are venture capitalists. They are previous founders. They have navigated through acquisitions, exits, and are very successful angel investors and venture capitalists. And a lot of the time, they're very good at spotting trends, because ultimately that's what your job is spotting a trend early. And as I just said, a lot of the time the venture markets dictate are a leading indicator of what the public equity markets will do. Okay. And right now, again, you're seeing private rounds in these large companies. OpenAI is kind of like the pinnacle company. They're the apex of the sector right now, especially in the private markets. But again, I do want to talk to you guys, hint, about what my single favorite stock is to trade. If you, once again, agree with me here, if you think that there is going to be an AI hype cycle, and you know, of course, we'll go over some price targets there as well. And we got to talk about what that stock is, of course. Okay, then once again, at the end, we'll talk about the specific holdings I have in this company that is C3 AI Inc. You guys can read it right there. I'm not going to try to hide it, but we'll talk about my specific holdings in this company, what it's done for us, and you know, why I'm really excited about the future for not only this company, but the other AI play within the Waves Capital portfolio, and really growth stocks in general. Okay, so that's the breakdown of the video, you guys. Before we get into some key points on this potential Microsoft investment, again, pretty much secured at this point, please give the video a like if you go on to gain value from it today. Let me know in the comments down below, do you agree with my sentiment here? Do you think that there is going to be, do you think that the artificial intelligence sector is going to see a hype cycle? Do you have a stock that you're playing? Do you have a horse in the race? And you know, just let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Always interested to hear your insight. Lastly, subscribe to the channel if you want to join the journey. The first video we posted on OpenAI, also when we established our positions, was about a month ago. It was over a month ago now. So, you know, so far so good. And if you want to follow this journey over the coming months, over the course of this hype cycle, subscribe to the channel, join Waves Capital. Okay, so key points. Microsoft is set to invest $10 billion in OpenAI as part of a funding round that would value the company at $29 billion. Microsoft will reportedly get a 75% share of OpenAI's profits until it makes back the money on its investment, after which the company would assume a 49% stake in OpenAI. A bet on ChatGPT could help Microsoft boost its efforts in web search, a market dominated by Google. Okay, so once again, I really gave the majority, you know, of my rationale in that intro. But again, you guys, when the venture capital markets really jump in on something, that's a good sign for you as a public. Hey, maybe you're a venture capitalist. If so, try to get in on some of these deals because it's still very, very early. But if you're a trader in the public equity markets like myself, if you're an options trader, if you're a swing trader, this is when you really need to start paying attention. And again, the reason I initially made that video on, again, no surprise, C3 AI Inc. Over a month ago now was because the ChatGPT was popping off. We had Lensa AI, which is an app where everyone is posting the Instagram of, you know, just themselves. It's a bunch of different AI generated like anime characters pretty much. And, you know, Dolly too, where you're seeing Star Wars in like a Star Wars painting in the style of Van Gogh's Starry Night or something. Just, you know, these crazy randomly generated AI generated artwork that are freaking amazing. So this has been a trend that has been in play, that has been taking over the cultural zeitgeist for months now. And again, that's what you have to look for when you're trying to identify hype. And again, this is cannabis in 2018. This is biotech stocks in mid-2020, and this is crypto and NFTs in 2021. That's what I believe AI will be. And again, we'll dive into my favorite stock after this and price targets. But right now, let's talk a little bit about OpenAI. And I guess it's not really necessary here, but you know, these guys have been talking a lot about OpenAI. You can see they covered this news about 5 days ago on their podcast. Go check it out. And they really give their insights onto the sector and their thoughts on kind of, you know, why there may be a bubble forming here as well. And they've been talking about it for the past month or so now. And again, when some of the best VCs, best angel investors in the world are talking about it, that's when you as, again, a public equity trader, investor, etc., really need to start paying attention. So let's quickly discuss what OpenAI is. It's not super necessary to go into too much detail, but I do want to discuss quickly what they do. So build next-gen apps within OpenAI's powerful models. Access GPT-3, which performs a variety of natural language tasks. Codex, which translates natural language to code. And DALL-E, which creates and edits original images. So again, you have the visual with DALL-E. You have Codex, which is kind of a code generator. And of course, GPT-3, which is ChatGPT, which performs, you ask it any question or tell it to like a real or a real kind of easily understandable and one that's going around a lot. As far as use cases for ChatGPT, you can say, write me a book report in the style write me a book report on this book in the style of Dr. Seuss, right? Or in the style of a Dr. Seuss book. And then it'll write you a really cheesy rhyming book that's really easy to digest because it's ultimately built for kids. So, again, there are so many things you could do. Ask it to write you I would never do this myself, but ask it to write you vows for your potential wedding or stuff like that. It's really impressive what the extent and detail to which ChatGPT can go. And I haven't played with it too much. I have played with it a little bit, and as far as my anecdotal research goes, it's pretty goddamn impressive. And what I've seen is even more impressive because I'm not super vetted at it, but that is what AI can do. I'm sure, as a lot of you guys know, if you guys watched my recent C3 AI video where we did go into in more detail about what this company does, and we'll dive into it right now. There are so many enterprise uses for AI on top of kind of like the more there's second and the third, like secondary layers to AI as opposed to just kind of like what we're seeing now. There's so much potential for AI as an underlying technology. Even more so, like, and when we say hype cycle, like even when we get to the plateau of productivity, the realistic value of AI is still really difficult to understand. Crypto, you can kind of make an estimated projection just based on the adoption of these specific financial instruments. What cannabis was really easy because that's like a product, like a physical product, a physical good, and you have a general idea of the market. But AI is so vague, and there's so many different routes that it could take. There's so many routes that it could plant in different sectors, in different industries, again, in different enterprise. There's so many enterprise applications for AI that's the ceiling is a lot higher. What I'm trying to say is the ceiling for AI as far as scalability is much greater than that of, crypto's more similar, but definitely cannabis, biotechs, bubbles we've seen in the past, hype cycles we've seen in the past. I think AI, it is the most justified if we see some bonkers price action in some of these stocks. Okay. So again, I do think it's easier to justify a potential hype cycle here. And I do think, although there will inevitably be a crash because that's just the nature of hype cycles, as you can see here. I don't think it'll be as intense as like cannabis and crypto, as I just implied, because again, the underlying technology has so much real world potential, and it's really not. It is kind of sketchy, I guess you can make the argument. There's some very cynical, very doomsday, dystopian arguments about AI, but I'm an optimistic guy, and I think for the most part, the implementation of AI will be a net positive to society. That's just my personal opinion, okay? And again, that's why I don't feel bad, and I actually enjoy investing in it. So let's talk about that investment right now. All right. And that is C3 AI Inc. Okay. So before we dive into this and talk price targets, I'll just say right now, you guys, my options position, just because I know some of you guys will piece out. So I just want to let you guys know what my options position is right now, is now the largest holding in my portfolio. And it's been this way over the past. I've accumulated a massive position in C3 AI. Again, there's so many, like I said, there's so many letters here. Obviously there's letters here, but like just these short bits like AI, C3, OpenAI, that's why I'm stumbling. No excuses, but yeah, it's weird saying all of these, just these tight knit letters. C3 AI Inc. Now the largest holding in my personal portfolio, following the addition of, and this I will say is my single favorite options contract on this, and I do have a couple, but this is in my mind the safest and what I feel recommending to you guys, with still that still possesses insane upside potential, and that is C3 AI contracts with an April 21st expiration date and a strike price of $15. Okay, C3 AI currently is about $13 at the time of recording. April is still 3 months away, leaving a lot of time for C3 AI to, hit that in the money point. And I do think it'll come a lot sooner than that, in all honesty. And that's, again, why I do have other call options positions on this as well. And I'm sure you're reading this right now. We will dive into the charts and I will justify that. But again, you guys, right now, the portfolio has been doing super well. I'm proud to say that as of today, even as the market was down, January 18th, the market was really pretty damn bloody today, in all honesty. But even as of today, the Waves portfolio, I'm proud to say, is still up 250% year to date. So far in 2023, we are up 250%. And again, red isn't always a bad thing. I did have some capital from some of our profits that I took yesterday to really take advantage of the downside we saw today. And I did buy more AI calls as well. And yeah, this is just an example. You guys can read this. I'm sure the subscribers to the newsletter and a portfolio group would in mind. But this is what like a trade alert newsletter looks like. This is in the macro analysis. We do cover a lot more as well. And this is every day. So little plug before we dive into C3 AI and talk about what this company does, why I'm so bullish on it. If you guys want to join Waves Capital, like for real, if you want to join the complete portfolio and daily newsletter group, if you want to know what the Waves Capital portfolio looks like and how I change it, how I alter it on a day-to-day basis, when I'm taking profits, when I'm keeping profits, when I'm waiting for pullbacks, when I'm buying, what I'm buying, of course, literally every trade in my personal portfolio is yours. And that is the first link down below in the description box if you want to join. Of course, you do receive everything that this little box right here entails, and that is for a price which I feel is very reasonable, and I do my best to make it reasonable because ultimately my job is a trader, but this is, really what fulfills me as well. Like just trading, especially with my style, swing trading, fairly passive, really establish a base macro thesis, establish a position and let it ride for days, weeks, sometimes months, So if you're interested in joining Waves Capital, if you want the daily newsletters that I write every single trading day, and there is 3 every single morning, $15 a month, $40 for every 3 months. Try free for 7 days, and if you don't like it, you can always just peace out. But I trust you will be sticking around, and if so, welcome to the winning team, you guys. I look forward to seeing you in Waves Capital. But if not, no worries at all. I appreciate you watching this video. Let's talk about C3 AI Inc. And of course, they do have ticker symbol AI, which really on top of a pretty damn impressive business model and like crazy growth metrics when you look at their previous earnings reports and kind of projections, forward-looking guidance. Super impressive there. But from a hype perspective, which is really, what we're talking about in this video, and really, although the technicals are great, we'll talk technicals, dancing around the technicals a lot, but we will talk about that. The fact that they have the ticker symbol AI, if we do see a hype cycle, Retail Joe's going to jump into his Robinhood account and type in AI, and this is going to be the first result here. And like, there's really a pretty select few of base plays. I will say another one I like in the AI sector is veritone. So that's a little cherry on top for you guys. If you want my specific call options on veritone, which I'm super pumped on as well, have been printing for us lately too. Again, portfolio. But right now, if you are going to take on one position, this is just, again, not financial advice, but know my money's where my mouth is. And C3 AI is right now by far the single largest call options position in my personal portfolio, in the Waves portfolio. Okay, so this is Enterprise AI. C3 AI delivers a comprehensive enterprise AI application development platform and a large and growing family of turnkey enterprise AI applications. C3 AI provides over 40 turnkey enterprise AI applications that meet the business critical needs of global enterprises in manufacturing, financial services, government, utilities, oil and gas, chemicals, agribusiness, defense and intelligence, and more. So you can see here just some of the names that are involved with C3 AI. Shell chooses C3 AI to digitally transform Shell. U.S. Air Force increases aircraft readiness using C3 AI relatability, and so on and so forth. Won't read over all of these, but you can pause it and read these if you want. But again, you guys, the ceiling is so high, and I'm not going to say the possibilities are limitless, but In a sense, they almost are, because you can incorporate AI into pretty much anything that utilizes any form of technology, right? So the ceiling is high, the potential is almost limitless. And again, that's what, in my mind, will really makes the potential of this hype cycle that much greater. And also really leaves less room for that kind of 90% pullback that you see in a lot of these. I don't think we will see a 90% pullback in all honesty. Again, 60, 70% is very likely if we do see some bonkers price action, but I don't think we'll see the 90% correction that we saw like in crypto and cannabis again, etc. Okay, so let's talk about C3AI on the charts and we'll call it a day, all right? C3AI, as of right now, has reached its lowest price. So first off, we are on the daily candles. Let's zoom out a little bit and take a look at what's happened with C3AI since its IPO. So C3AI IPO'd in December of 2020. Markets were a little hot. You can see here, IPO'd at a price of $100. So even when you're talking about where we are now from our IPO price, C3AI is still 87% below the IPO price. And again, it's important to remember that investment bankers who, you can question their competence based upon the investment bank that helped C3AI go public, but it is their job to fairly dictate the value of a company. And even though the macro environment has changed, again, interest rates have changed, the valuation and what's determined as fair value has changed significantly since December of 2021. And of course, when ballistic, C3AI's all-time high is 183, and we're currently at $13. So you can see how far we've come from there. But even that, like, regardless of the differences in the macroeconomic environment and the valuation backdrop, C3AI is still well below its IPO price. And in my opinion, it's way too far below that IPO price. Again, this doesn't make any sense up here. Hey, maybe we revisit that. It's very, very possible we do revisit these levels. But again, IPO price should be determined as somewhat fair, even though it chop 30 to 50% based upon the macroeconomic backdrop off of the IPO price. But again, even a 50% cut from the IPO price, which I think is actually pretty fair. A 50% cut from $100, that's easy math right there. That's $50. So that would equate to a $50 share price if we can even find half of the current or half of the IPO price in this potential hype cycle, which personally I think is very, very easy. Okay, so that said, let's zoom in here. C3AI, even since those August highs, we saw that little August rally. So even since that August high of about 2350, C3AI current levels is down 44%. And to the low we saw, December 31st, everyone getting that tax loss harvesting out of the way, as we talked about a lot on this channel at the end of 2022, down to $10, almost scratched single digits. Didn't quite do that, but from high to low, from August to December, saw 57% downside. As the AI sector is seeing so much adoption, once again, institutional interest, there's some massive deals going here. There's some massive valuations flying around. And right now, C3AI is currently sitting at a valuation, my fat head, at $1.4 billion. Okay, so is it possible for this company to see a $10 billion valuation? Very easily. That would equate to, once again, like an 8x from here, given the fact that OpenAI, although much bigger, is getting valued at about $30 billion. So again, when you're talking about hype, fair value really isn't a thing. There is no fair value. It's all perceived value. But again, could AI, and that will, for me as a trader, really be a point which I would look to take some very, very meaningful profits if we do see that hype rally play out, would be a $10 billion market cap. And of course, psychological evens, being those rounded numbers, $20, $30, $50. But again, in all honesty, if we do see a hype cycle play out, and I do think it's coming, I will say by the summer, I think a hype cycle is coming for AI by this summer. I do think that AI can reclaim at least half of its IPO price, $50 once again. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest to see us reclaim that IPO price at the very least around $100, which from here is, that 8x that we're kind of talking about for that 10B valuation. Okay, so that's kind of the longer term horizon if the hype cycle actually does strike. But right now, C3AI is looking good for those of you viewing right now. This will be a little more timely. If you're watching later, you can see if I was right or wrong about this. Okay, so right now, as of today, C3, as of yesterday, I should say, C3 AI was able to close a daily candle above this shorter term line of resistance dating back to early November. Okay, so initial touch points, next touch point on the series of lower highs and lower lows, creating the line of resistance, that orange line. Yesterday, we were able to close above this line of resistance. And that to me, as a trader, from a macro trend direction, C3 AI has now broken resistance and is now in a textbook uptrend. As you can see today, in the wake of everything else falling, I mean, the fact that AI was down less than the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 speaks to kind of the strength in this asset right now. And, technically, we just came back down to test broken resistance as new support. And I do think new highs are coming in the short term. My first target right now is going to be this gap right here. So I do have a $16 to $18 gap target, as you can see, as I'm sure you've been looking at for quite a while. This is my initial target range, and that is because C3 AI still has a massive gap to fill over here from early September. You can see it gap down for all the way from $18 to $16. Therefore, $16 is the low end of the gap. That is my initial target. Next is $18, and I do think that, considering there is kind of a megaphone channel playing out right here. I'll draw this. So as you can see, like a megaphone channel, I'll make it cyan so it does match. So as you can see here, there is a megaphone channel playing out. We bounced off support on this megaphone channel. It would make sense that we now make our way up to resistance. In the case that we test this, February 17th, where I have this drawn, see a little short-term correction, see that second wave to the upside, a classic two-wave pattern. If we see that by February 17th, that would take us up to $17.60, okay? So again, you guys, this is all completely speculative, but I have been trading cycles like this for a very long time. The two-wave, our coined two-wave theory that really I introduced to the channel and to the markets a couple of years ago when we first saw what was happening in crypto in Riot blockchain in 2020. Again, that's psychology. A lot of times these technical patterns are just psychology visualized. I'll say that. So two-wave, again, is a matter of psychology, is a matter of this hype cycle, the nature of the early stages of the hype cycle of those, the early adopters, the nerd phase into that euphoric phase. And right now, I think what we're seeing are the early ripples of what will be this second wave. And, if we really start going ballistic, I want to be surprised also if we come to test broken support as new resistance, which has not happened yet. And I am actually very confident that at some point by June 1st, this will happen. If it happens by June 1st, that would lead us to a price per share on AI of $35. And, if that happens, Waves Capital is going to, we'll go buy our mom's houses. All right. So, that's the video, you guys. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments down below what you thought. If you think this is a whack theory, if you think the macro environment will not allow this, whatever your thoughts are, especially if you agree, let me know what your favorite stocks are to play this cycle. Let me know if you're excited about it, and let me know if you're part of Waves Capital and if you have been eating good with us so far in 2023. All right. Cheers to the future, you guys. I'll talk to you downstairs in the comments. And once again, if you do want to join Waves Cap, that's the first link in the description box below. Until next time, you guys, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace.